Good call. Okay, let me see. I think, am I live now? Hello. Okay, wonderful. Hi, everyone. Take two. Thank you all so much for letting us know that the audio was being weird. Unfortunately, when you make new OBS scenes, sometimes the tech decides not to cooperate with you. But yes, hi. As I was trying to say before, my name is Rubiehart. I am a speedrunner of Shadow of the Colossus. I am a professional actor based in the DC Metro region and just an overall gamer. Oh, and actually, that cutscene that I mentioned earlier that gives you the first little bit of plot is right here. So we'll actually get a chance to watch it. So before we even actually dig into the game, the first bit of plot you get is just the main character, Wander, making his way to the place that we're going to be playing the entire game in, called the Forbidden Land. So if you've never had the chance to play this game before, just while we're in this downtime leading up, let me just give a little bit of an explanation. So if you've never had the chance to play this game before, the reason I started speedrunning it is because it is my favorite game of all time. So I really, really highly recommend it. The entire game basically focuses around this main character, Wander. And I'll let the first cutscene kind of establish what the plot is, since we're actually going to be able to watch through it. And this is going to be pretty exciting for me because as speedrunners, we don't get to watch the games or the plot of the game as much as we probably would like. So some of these cutscenes I actually haven't seen in months, which is going to be really cool to kind of watch along with everyone. This game is actually part of a series made by Gen Design. The first game in the series is called Eco. Then this was made as a prequel to that game, originally released for the PS2. And then there was an HD remaster for the PS3 that came with the first game in the series. And then Blue Point basically got a hold of it and made this absolutely gorgeous, full ground up, new graphics, new everything remaster or complete remake. Just from the ground up for the PS4. So that's the version of the game that you're going to get to see today. Oh gosh, there's so much extra detail. If you've never had the chance to play the original PS2 version, there's so much extra detail they added just as far as the plant life, the architecture, everything else in the game. And we'll be able to get into a little bit more of that once Wander actually goes into the Forbidden Land here as it opens up. Sorry, again, words cannot express how excited I am. I haven't seen these cutscenes in forever. And this is the first look that you get of the Forbidden Land before you even press start. God, it's gorgeous. So the category I'm going to be playing today, there are a few different categories that we primarily use as speedrunners. Some are just time attack categories, so just running through each of the different boss fights kind of individually on their own. But I'm going to be playing through any percent normal today, which is actually playing the whole game from start to finish. And once we actually start the timer, it should take, play-wise, I want to say about 2 hours, 10 minutes, but that's also an estimate. Without cutscenes, it usually takes me about an hour 37 to an hour 40 to beat the game. So with the cutscenes, we're going to see how long it's going to take. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. So for anyone who's about to hit that, the game is going to be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. How long is a normal playthrough? So this game, if you're playing it casually, if you're a more skilled gamer and you're used to games with similar mechanics, then a lot of new players I've seen, it takes about 6 to 8 hours to beat their first time. But I know that some people it also takes up to 10 to 12. So it does take a significantly longer amount of time to beat the game if you're not a speedrunner, obviously. And one of the things that makes this game really interesting is, unlike a lot of other action or puzzle-based games, you don't have to worry about grunts or anything else that you fight. You only have to worry about the 16 main boss fights. And actually, this first cutscene is going to kind of explain why that is. So that's going to be pretty great. I finished it casually in around 8 to 9 hours. Yeah, Helion, that sounds about right. That sounds like about the right amount of time. Oh, and if you haven't been paying attention, pay attention to the bundle that Wander has. It is very important. I'm not talking right now because I want to let you all enjoy the cutscene and how absolutely gorgeous the music is in this game. But once we actually get into the gameplay, then I'll start to kind of talk about what I'm going into with the speedrun strats. Yeah, Helion, I just saw what you said. It's a really gorgeous game. It already was beautiful for the PS2, and I think everything that Bluepoint added just takes the original intent of how gorgeous the game is supposed to be and then amps it by about 50 notches. That place began from the resonance of intersecting points. I don't know if you can tell I've played this game a lot.
Was you a dealers also? View houses is will. Equal kizado you lola. Islis was I kun. Aumiz quick. You are la quicker.
The first appearance! Oh, God, this is so cool. Thunder above, we You're about to be presented with one of the coolest casting decisions a video game has ever made, in my humble opinion.
Dormi before RRLOL2 오시트 하일로와 우키우아이쿠아 우지스 히아즈워 츠도코 와시 노르데키오 우티우라 이즈큐ムク 이두세 어로도유 이웨리쿠 It's not all amusement. Allu click if the least to is. 우러노라. 오유. 아우 뱃. 유두. 유벳 사나다. 올람. 올라. 유두 뉴.
And thus we get the setup of the entire game. You do not have grunts, you do not have smaller animals, you just fight the 16 main colossi. Okay, so now that you've gotten to see the opening cutscene, now you know the basic plot of the game. You came to this land because this girl you had with you, Mono, was sacrificed, and this god Dorman basically says the only way I can use my power to help you is if you kill these colossi and destroy these statues. The really cool thing about gen design games, though, is outside of a few basic bits of plot that they'll give you, everything else, story-wise, is incredibly rich and vast, but it's all built implicitly into the game. And the main reason for that is the gen design creators especially the director Fumito Ueda, who was kind of the mastermind behind the games in the Team Ico series. He wanted to allow players to come up with their own theories so that they were also an active part of building the narrative. So everyone has their own theories for how different things in this game work, what kind of god the doorman is, or if it's just some other kind of being, what the relationship between Wander and Mono is. Everything kind of changes depending on who you talk to. And I think that's one of the beauties of the game. And this cutscene is going to just show us from the very first Colossus how massive and incredible they are versus you, this tiny, tiny human. I don't know what Wander thought he was getting himself into, but the fact that he just follows through with it, props to him. So, okay, for the speedrun strat on this Colossus, what I'm gonna do is a bunch of the Colossi, in order to get onto them, have these weak spots that kind of show you where you should hit in order to get onto a Colossus. So there was one on the ankle that I was able to hit, and during that cutscene, as you saw, I'm actually able to move. So all you have to do for the speedrun strat is once he goes down, this first Colossus Valis in that cutscene, I just climb onto the head and then stab the head 3 times. And just like that, the first fight is done. So a few of the strats that I employed in there, just to give you a general idea before we get into the next cutscene, is something you'll see me doing a lot in this game is finding what we call plants in the community. So a plant is basically an area that you can grab onto the fur of the Colossus over a sigil, where no matter how much they shake, the Colossus won't be able to move you out of that position. There are some places you'll grab where you'll swing all over the place and you can't get a hit in or can't stabilize, but with those plants, it allows you to get a hit relatively easily. Then as far as the final stab, if you noticed, I did a jump stab instead of a plant stab. And the reason for that is a jump stab is actually the most powerful version of a stab in the game. We typically don't use it for regular hits because there's a long animation of pulling the sword back out. But then what we'll typically use it for is the final hit, because unlike some Colossi where you have to do a regular hit and it takes your sword into slow motion, by doing a jump stab, it just takes us directly into the cutscene at the end of the fight. And that way the in-game timer that we use for the speedrun.com chart isn't running. It's really cool in the design, and every Colossus, so that is really the only of its kind you're going to see with its same behavioral patterns. Every Colossus is a different size, they behave differently, they have different environments around them that you utilize to your advantage. From the very beginning of the game, you don't really collect items. You start with the ancient sword, you start with a bow, and that's it. If you do boss rush, you can get some other items just for fun as you're playing through again to feel more overpowered, but during the standard version of the game, that's all you've got, and you have to make do with it the best you can. And just like that, Colossus number 1 is down. Thy next foe is. In the seaside cave, it moves slowly. Oh, another cool note, since we're actually getting to watch the cutscenes. So this language that they're all speaking is actually a special language invented specifically for this series of games called, that's typically referred to as Runic. So if you're not sure quite where the language comes from, that's because it's made up specifically for this game. Agro! I forgot that one of the quirks of this game is if you skip a cutscene, you can figure out exactly where the horse is going to be, so that you can ride her and then keep moving to the next Colossus. But when you don't skip the cutscenes, she'll just randomly end up all these different places and you have to figure out where she is. So probably after those scenes in the shrine, one of the things you'll see me doing is just frantically searching for where my horse is so I can get to the next area. Oh man, that's gonna be fun. So the next Colossus that I'm headed towards is referred to as Quadratus. So I have nicknames for all the Colossi. The first one I call my Bear Boy, because he looks like a bear, and he has the rounded ears and everything. And then this one I call my Boar Boy. But Quadratus, the way that you would typically defeat this Colossus in the intended strats is he has weak spots, kind of like how Valis had on the back of one of his ankles, but they're on the bottom of his hooves. So what you typically do is go down to that beach that you see below. I just realized I shouldn't skip that cutscene. So in this cavern that you see and on that beach, typically what you'll do is take this ramp all the way down to activate the cutscene, and then use the ground below in order to get him to lift his legs, shoot, and get him to drop a leg so you can climb up onto his back. What I'm going to do that's actually really cool in this version is you can activate the cutscene by just jumping up onto this cliff here. So I'm just going to hang out here, and this is going to activate the cutscene. So we're going to get to see Quadratus come out, and when he does, I can jump onto his back. So that's just a fun trick. I actually once talked to my roommate and said, oh yeah, we're gonna do a casual playthrough of this. It's fine. It's gonna be great. And then I kept accidentally skipping the first cutscene, so we had to retry like 5 times. So yeah, by avoiding going down to the beach, I'm able to just jump directly onto his back. And then there are 2 sigils on this there are 2 sigils on this Colossus. The first is on his head. And what I'm trying to do is, for this one, I don't actually want to be directly on top of the sigil. I want to be just about here, because what that's going to do for me is allow me to get hits in and to do damage to the Colossus and the sigil. There we go. The first one got memed just because the sigil hitboxes, fun fact, as the Colossus moves, sometimes shift and move beneath the Colossus. But because we got that plant, I was able to get in the other stabs, so that's great. And now I'm going to make my way to the second sigil, which is going to be directly on the butt. So once I make my way back here, all I have to do is 3 final stabs to this back sigil. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and there is Colossus number 2. Quadratus is down. Something that you probably saw me do there really quick that actually I'm going to use on another Colossus later, so I'll just go ahead and explain it now, is if you noticed, I wasn't doing on the back sigil full charge up stabs and then the animation where you see Wander kind of slowly pull out the sword. Because there are some places where if you're stable enough, you can actually just let go after doing a stab and immediately re-grab and start charging again. So you can't use it on a lot of the Colossi, but there are at least 1 or 2 where you can get them, and we call them cycle stabs. So it just allows you to stab a little bit faster. But again, we only use it 1 or 2 places. For the most part, I'm going to be going for those plants and jump stabs on a majority of the Colossi. There's 2 shadow people. Okay, whether you've played this game or not, I would genuinely love, because again, part of the beauty of gen design games is everyone comes up with their own theories. If people start talking theory in the chat, I would be very curious to see what other people's are. I have a million different theories on what I think about this game, but I'm very curious to see what you all come up with as well. The anger of the sleeping giant shatters the earth. And thus, we're gonna start heading to the 3rd Colossus with one of the coolest strats in the game that is also insanely difficult. We'll see if I can nail it. So this next Colossus, even if you've never played the game before, he's used on a lot of the cover art and fan art of this game because he just generally looks pretty iconic. So his name is Gaius. I refer to him as the Warrior. And like the Doorman that God said, he absolutely shatters the earth with his hits. And the way he does that is once we get to it, you'll see he actually has a sword affixed to his arm. So one of his arms has a huge sword just coming directly out of it. So the way that you would normally beat this Colossus, if you were just playing it with intended strats, is there is a metal plate in the very center of his arena. And one of the things you'll notice when you take a look at him is he has this armor on his neck, on his arm, on a few other places, but it looks like it is completely decaying with age. So what you want to do is basically use that to your advantage and get him to hit that center metal plating with his sword, because that is going to break the rest of his armor. However, since I'm a speedrunner, I'm actually going to skip that. So what's going to happen instead is we have a strat called the Gaius launch or the Space Jam, just depending on the person you ask. We refer to it as both things. So basically the way that I'm going to try and do this strat instead is, rather than trying to break the arm guard so I can easily climb up the arm because it takes extra time, I'm going to try and launch myself from the bottom of Gaius's sword directly up to his head. So we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. And this is another area that just shows off how absolutely gorgeous this game is. Even the water looks prettier in this game, especially this version. So, oh shoot, I skipped. I'm so sorry. I promise you, all that cutscene is the horse pulling up and then you seeing this arena. If it was a more significant cutscene, I would just absolutely go back. But I promise you that was a 1-second cutscene. I am so sorry. All right, let me see. Every single time, even though I've been playing this game for speedrunning it for a year now, seriously, every time I make that jump over the water, it still makes me nervous. And now is when you get to see Gaius awaken from his slumber. You're only 20 minutes in. You could totally reset. Yeah, but again, if it was a more significant one, that'd be one thing. But I'd rather just keep going since it's only a 1-second cutscene. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for the speedrun strat, I know I already mentioned the basic bit of it. So I'm gonna try, because there is a sigil on his stomach, to shoot as many arrows into it as possible before setting up for this next big trick. And the reason for that is just to basically save me a stab later. And now, let me see if I can get the launch. Yep, there we go. Directly from the sword to the head. So that basically made it so I don't have to worry about breaking that arm guard you see to the right. And now once he gets his shakes out, because they always get a shake and show how angry they are that I'm on top of them, then there is a sigil on his head, and I'm basically just trying to get a plant here so that I can get in these stabs really quickly. I only have to do 4 stabs on the head on normal mode, thank goodness. Which gives me just enough time before he completely bows his head, which would throw me out of position. And now I'm just gonna make my way to his back. Oh, that was way, oh no! I was about to say that was way too close for comfort, and then I went past the platform. You know what? That's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. Hey, babe. Oh no, I'm so sad. Okay, well, I'm glad y'all got to see the jump, but oh boy, this is very upsetting. No! Alright, well, the head sigil is down. Now I just need him to swing his sword at me again so that I can get back on. Please? Thank you! Once he swings back like that, I know that I'm gonna get the right animation, so at least we got that pretty quickly. Sometimes that's very hard to recover. But for this one, I'm not going to try and do that space jam because after the first try, the alignment kind of gets thrown out of whack. So that's really unfortunate that that happened, but I just apparently let go of the grip just a little too early and was headed a little too straight down. Oh. Nope. And that sure is not going to work either. Wow! Okay, I swear I'm good at this game. I swear, y'all. Okay, so, hey, Gaius. Hey, Gaius, could you maybe not? Could you maybe not? What if you... Thank you. All right, come on. Come on, babe. I was amused the first time. Now, I just want to kill you. Can I please kill you? Thank you. Okay. Once I get past talking through the actual strats, then it just becomes me sass talking the Colossi. So just come with me on this journey. It's fine. Okay, here we go. That's what I wanted for that animation. And now I can get to the stomach. And the head sigil's already out. And now all I have to do is stab here. And then we're done. I know it wasn't that much of a time loss, but I'm gonna be sad. All right, and sadness over. Colossus is down. Moving on. Cool. Okay, great. That Colossus is done. So yes, if that had gone ideally, so I got the jump stat or the jump to the head immediately and then got the plants on the head, which is fantastic. Typically what you would want to do there for a smoother version of that Colossus is dropping from the shoulders down to that platform on the back and then coming around to get those final stabs on the stomach. I think I probably lost a minute or so there trying to get back on, but considering the first two went really well, I'm not super concerned about it. We're gonna be fine with the other Colossi. There are still plenty of places to make up time. I see someone who said take him down with arrows, and while that would be something great in theory, one of the things the game actually forces you to do, it doesn't allow you to do that. So you can take out the first teeny bit of damage by hitting with arrows, but it doesn't let you go much further than that because part of the intent of the game is actually using the strategies or trying to figure out how to get on the Colossus and take out the sigils. And the narrative explanation for that is the sigils primarily are taken out by the ancient sword that you have with you. So that's one of the main devices you want to use when taking out the Colossi. Otherwise, it's not going to work because your arrows don't have the same kind of power to thwart Dorman that the sword does. In the land of vast green fields, rows of guiding graves. It is giant indeed, but fearful it is not. This brings us to our next Colossus. So this is Phaedra that we're going to be coming up on. Phaedra, who is a very, very well-beloved Colossus in the speedrun community for this game. There we go. Hey, babe, you came so quickly this time. So I call everything in this game babe. People in my community are aware of this at this point. So if you hear me calling the horse babe, calling Wander babe, calling the Colossi babe, it's just it's just always been a part of me playing this game. So here we are. But this next Colossus that we're going to be coming up on, so Phaedra, I used to call him my horsey boy, but people have called this Colossus a giraffe, a dragon, a deer, a llama is one that I've heard. So I'll really leave it up to your own interpretation what animal you think it is. But the way that you would normally defeat this Colossus with the intended strats is you're going to see that there are these tunnels underneath the hills. They almost look like the entrances to Hobbit homes, but they're just tunnels that lead into each other. So yeah, this is the kind of cutscene that I accidentally skipped going up to Gaius. It basically just establishes what the arena looks like and what kind of area you're entering into. So those tunnels right there, what you would normally do is Phaedra is extremely tall, as you're gonna see when we get up to her. And let me see. Yes, so once we get up to her, you'll see that this Colossus is absolutely gigantic, and you wouldn't normally be able to jump on. What's going to happen, though, is if you, let me see, if you use these tunnels and basically trick her into thinking you're in them, you can actually crawl out the other side, and while she's leaned over trying to search for where you went, you can climb onto her back. What I'm going to do here, though, is actually going to circumvent all of that, so I'm not going to be using the tunnels whatsoever. Instead, by flinging yourself off of Agro at exactly the right time, you can land directly on the back leg and just climb up directly to where that ladder is. So let me see. There we go. Perfect. Love it. Okay. The one thing that always makes me really anxious when I get into this fight in an any percent run is this is one that if you miss that strat first time, there's no really easy way to reset it. You just have to try and get back on and hope for the best. So thank goodness, got it the first try. And now all I have to do, there's only one sigil on this Colossus, and that's directly on the head here. So once I get in a plant, which I think we just hit it, perfect. Now all I have to do is stab all the way home, and that's Phaedra. So quick, easy fight. I'm just gonna need to do a few more stabs to take out this final sigil, and then we will be good to go. Awesome! Oh gosh. Another thing people will do, so I use the back ladder in order to get onto this Colossus just for the sake of the speedrun strat, but if you don't climb all the way under and around with the tunnels as far as the intended strat is concerned, to get onto the Colossus, another thing you can do is when Phaedra leans over his head, if you saw those almost whiskers that were hanging down from the face, they actually hang low enough where you can climb onto them and just get directly up to the head. The one downside of doing that strategy, though, is when you don't take out the weak point on the neck, the head has a lot more leeway to swing around wherever it wants to. So, ugh. She's still dead, Wander. Sorry. You got more Colossi to beat before she comes back. Ah, yes. Avion. So this is another one of those Colossi that I personally feel is really iconic for this game. Because it's going to be our first Colossus that's flying. And flying over water, no less. Oh my god, Wander, get on the horse. Babe. Thank you. Okay, so now that Wander is on the horse safely, we're gonna make our way towards the first flying Colossus. And this is one that it's such a fun fight, but it also is very anxiety inducing because unlike Gaius where, okay, I fell off, it took me maybe 30 seconds to get back on. With this Colossus, if you fall or make any mistakes, you plummet straight to the arena below, which is nothing but very, very narrow platforms that are spread very far apart, and everything else is just water. So once we make our way up to this one, I'm going to try and be as careful as possible in this fight to ensure that we just go straight through it and are all set. And the nice thing is with the speedrun strat for this particular Colossus, it doesn't actually vary that much from what we consider the intended strat. So what the designers wanted people to do when taking on this fight is there are going to be 3 sigils on this Colossus. The first 2 are going to be on either wing. On the very ends of the wings, there is fur that you can stab. So yes, it's very terrifying and very exciting when you get it. And then the final sigil is going to be on the very back of the tail. So those are the 3 that I'm going to be going for. The very beginning of the fight, I'm going to be getting the attention of the Colossus, and I'm going to be mounting the Colossus the exact same way that any normal player would. The only thing that's going to be different is how I move from wing to wing and then to the tail. And it's basically just cutting out time of doing a bunch of slow crawling with the fur just to be safe, and doing a bunch of, well, we're just gonna go as hard as we can, balls to the wall tricks, by jumping as fast as we can, as high as we can, to the opposite wing. So we'll see if I can get the wing drop or one of the wing jumps here. Fingers crossed. Oh wait, oh no! Well, I'm great at this. I'm gonna sit here for a moment because there should have been about 15 seconds there and just lament and apologize. I promise I will not do it again. I'm so sorry. Let me give you a cinematic of how this cutscene goes, because I'm the worst, or just a mental image. So, basically what you see is the Colossus flying all across the arena. I'm gonna stand on the platform in the center and give you a good long look at it while I sit here in shame and, once again, deeply apologize. I'm sure that anyone who's a speedrunner in the chat may know this. If you have the ability to skip a cutscene, you are so used to it and have it in the muscle memory that it's very hard to not do that. So yeah, go ahead and take a look at the Colossus. Basically all that cutscene was flying around the arena and then landing on this platform where we see her now. So now what I'm gonna do is shoot her, like I said, just like any other player would, get to the center platform, and once she swoops down, I'm gonna be able to jump onto her shoulder fur, and this is where it's gonna get into being just a little bit different. I'm basically just gonna do a few drop regrabs for the sake of getting a little further into the fur versus staying on that very bottom. Now, one thing I will say is the RNG here can vary a little. So the thing that we would like ideally is for her wing to have gone up during that moment, but instead it went down, which is fine. Basically all that does is if the wing goes up in that moment, you can drop all the way from one wing directly down to the opposite wing, but if it goes down instead, you can only really get to that halfway point that I was at. So now I just have to wait for a few more wave animations, and once she calms down with the wings, then I'm gonna be able to get in this stab. Okay. Okay, awesome. And we got right onto the fur. So now all I have to do is jump stab this. And one really cool thing about this back sigil actually is you don't have to be directly on top of it in order to hit it. This is one that actually has a really huge hitbox. So as long as you're on the back third of the tail, then you can hit it just fine. And I just saw someone say any % normal most of the cutscenes. Yes, it is most of the cutscenes. The nice thing is I haven't skipped any of the major ones, and I will do my best. Here's what I'm gonna do. Anytime I'm not in a fight, I'm just going to put my controller down. I'm just gonna put it down and stare at it because clearly I cannot be trusted to have the controller in my hands while doing speedruns and also trying to watch the cutscenes, which I love and I've been so excited about, but also, muscle memory. Okay, I'm just swimming towards the tendrils so that they can send me back to the shrine. And the controller is down. I am not touching it. Great. Gotta get that frame perfect cutscene skip. It's worth the most. Yeah, really. I will say one thing that's actually going to be really interesting is in this run, there are actually 1 or 2 cutscenes that you let play and skip at a specific moment in order to cause different glitches in the game to happen. So one of them for the 6th Colossus, you're not going to be able to see. But by skipping the cutscene at a very specific moment, you can actually land already on the Colossus rather than having to worry about getting onto it first. But I'm going to be able to show you all the strategy that we use for boss rush, since I'll be on the ground for that instead. Oh, actually, it's the next one that we're headed towards. So this is the Colossus I was just talking about. It lusts for destruction, but a fool it is not. Okay. I am now picking up the controller and calling for my horse. This is fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so the next Colossus we're headed towards that Dorman so wonderfully introduced is named Barba. I refer to him as the Old Sage, and basically this Colossus, like they said, is not only extremely aggressive, but very, very smart. So basically, once we get to the arena, I'll be able to explain it a little bit better. It doesn't quite make sense to explain the strategy unless you get a look at what the arena looks like, since it's one where the environment matters a lot more. But as far as getting to this Colossus, one thing that's really cool is there are 2 different Colossi throughout the game that are going to be in this same general area, where we go through what our speedrun community affectionately refers to as the 17th Colossus. The 17th Colossus being this freaking forest that all of us get lost in regularly. I have seen people who are world record holders accidentally get lost in the forest. Part of that is just, if you don't know where you're going, it's very hard to navigate. And even if you do know where you're going, if you do these kickstarts that you see me do with Agro, it's basically, that's the fastest way to activate her running animation, or it's the way to activate her fastest running animation. But if you do it while Agro is too close to grass, sometimes she panics and freaks out, which also loses people a ton of time in the forest since there is so much grass everywhere. I don't know why a horse that weighs hundreds of pounds is afraid of a few blades of grass. I cannot tell you, I cannot explain it. All I know is that that is the way that the game is designed. So it is something that we have to deal with as speedrunners. So navigation percent is, or having to deal with navigation and knowing where to go in the midst of the confusing forests and canyons is another really, really big part of running this game. Okay, so now that we're coming up on it, what you're gonna see when I get to this fight is it is a huge, basically underground temple, is the best way I can think to describe it. So once we get down there, you'll see that there is this multi-tiered area, and this Colossus is very aggressive and huge. So what you would normally want to do is just run as far away from him as possible. And then once you get to that far shrine that you'll see in just a second, you hide. And this Colossus has a absolutely huge beard on its face. So what you would want to do is grab onto that beard as he kneels down to look for you, and then get up onto the Colossus. What I'm going to do is actually going to circumvent that and use the physics of the game kind of to my advantage. So yeah, as you can see, now we're getting that really long pan out just of the area that has this big temple and the ladder going down. And I know I mentioned this before, but this is definitely one of those areas where you can tell there's so much more of the story just built into the architecture. There's our boy. Minotaur 2. Barba. If you're ever curious when a Colossus notices me and is angry, watch for their eyes to turn orange from blue. Okay, so for the speedrun strat, essentially what I'm doing is getting onto the arm, and then once I get the right animation, I'm basically going to use this swing to jump directly onto the head. So just like that, we're on Barba, and now all I have to do is there are 2 sigils on this Colossus. The first one is right here on the head. The second one is going to be in the center of the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that one out. That sigil is done. And then I'm gonna let Barba shake for a second. He just needs to get his aggression out. Again, if someone was on top of me trying to kill me, I would be angry too. Let's see. Okay, so now all I have to do is the final half stab to that back sigil, and just like that, Barba is dead. So again, a Colossus that usually takes a lot longer, but that was probably a minute or less version of the Barba fight, which is exactly where I want to be. I typically like to aim for that one to be between 50 seconds and a minute, so that's mwah, chef's kiss. Magnifique. Oh yeah, with these tunnel cutscenes, as we see them more and more, start to listen a little more closely. Because as we get further into the game, you'll start to hear a voice. Just ever so faintly. But really listen for it. Pay attention. It's really cool when it finally comes up. And the controller is down and I've backed away from it, so don't worry, nothing's getting skipped again. And now we head towards one of the hardest Colossi in the game. There are 3 that I put in my top 3 hardest Colossi. This is one of them. So this next Colossus, oh boy. Okay, so my Sparky boy, my Ely boy, Hydrus. As you can guess from the nicknames, is an electric eel, and a very aggressive one at that. Where's my horse? Hun! We're in a speed run here. Excuse me. Thank you. Goodness. This Colossus, one thing that really annoyed me when I was growing up and would play this game is I would take so long trying to figure out how to get to the Colossi, because one of the things they built into this game that's actually really brilliant is they don't tell you exactly where to go. You don't have a map that tells you this is the exact pinpoint. You do have a basic map that you can look at very briefly, and it opens up different areas just that you've already been to. But the main mechanic for getting from place to place is just using the sword and shining the light, like the doorman instructed in the beginning of the game. The problem with this, though, and the challenge of that part of the game, is that it only points in a completely straight line towards the next Colossus. It doesn't account for canyons, lakes, mountains, anything like that. So a lot of times you'll think you're going in the right direction, and there are actually a bunch of other twists and turns that you kind of have to take. This was one of the Colossi that was the hardest for me to get to, because I would go into these canyons and end up just in the absolute labyrinth that is the center of the Forbidden Lands. But the truth of the matter is you can just run as far north on the map as you are allowed to, and then as far left on the map as you are allowed to, and then you're at the Colossus. It's that simple. It's not that complicated. And if I had known that when I was in high school and first started playing this game, I would have been so excited and so angry for how many hours I spent trying to get to this Colossus. I feel like anyone who has played this game before will probably know what I was talking about there. And then actually, in this area generally, if you look to the right there, you can see the arena for one of the final Colossi, so number 15. And then there's also a complete drop in the desert where there's this larger canyon, and that's where another fight takes place. So it's really cool and interesting how many things in this game you don't realize are actually going to lead to a fight, and the fact that they become so significant later. Even though you can basically access them at any time. But yeah, this far area that you see coming up straight ahead is where we're going to be headed for this Colossus. So, the general way that you would try and beat this if you were playing it casually is this Colossus has 3 different electric nodes on its back. And those do a ton of damage to you, so obviously you would want to take them out. The safest way to beat this Colossus is as he bobs his head in the water, you basically grab onto the back, slowly make your way up, stab the nodes so that they go out and you won't get shocked anymore, since each of the nodes has a weak spot right behind it, and then get to the head sigil so that you can stab it and take it all the way home. However, the problem with this, as far as speedrunning the game is concerned, is doing what we call a 2 cycle, so getting knocked off of the Colossus and having to restart the animations all over again wastes so much time. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to get a series of jump stabs to basically get Hydrus to turn her head in the water so I can end up directly on the head first. And that's going to save us a ton of time, and I should be able to do it in 1 cycle. Now, if I don't get the jump stabs on the head, there's still a way to 1 cycle it. It's just going to take ever so slightly longer, but this is a very hard trick, so it's always good to try the speedrun strat as well as the backup if needed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little. So the reason I was counting there is to set yourself up properly for this Colossus. You actually have to count the number of swim animations, but I did get the attention of the Colossus immediately because her eyes turned orange. So now let me see if I can knock off that series of jump stabs. Wish me luck. Nope. Okay, cool. That's fine. Let me see though. If she pops the tail up, I should be able to still keep going here without much problem. No! Oh, why would you do that? That was so rude! Okay, well, apparently the Colossus just does not want to cooperate with me today. That's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. Alright, I'm gonna actually, you know what? I'm not gonna regain some of this health, because if she kills me, that means I get to try that strat again. So unfortunately, if you don't get onto the Colossus immediately, it's basically just a matter of swimming around and hoping you can get her attention. I cannot count the number of times that I have just screamed or sang at this Colossus, baby, come back. Please. Please. It happens to all of us, though. What can you do? Oh no, Hun! Hun! Get angry! Look at me! Aha! Okay. I don't even have to see the eyes. The fact that she shook like that tells me that she saw me. So now, okay, what I'm gonna need to do is she's gonna do this head bop, and I'm gonna wait until the final node passes, and that's when her tail is gonna start hitting the top of the water. So I'm just gonna wanna grab onto the tail of the Colossus. Perfect, we got it. And now, as far as the speedrun strat, if you end up in this position like I have, you can actually roll up the back of the Colossus while she's underwater. So you don't have to just hold still as long as she flattens out, you can actually just keep moving. And I am gonna hold back here actually, just because I know I'm slightly out of the range of fire. And then keep moving. But I'm not gonna stab any of these nodes. And the main reason that I do that is because if I were to stab them, it would actually make the timer for how much time I have to get the one cycle way, way shorter. It would be basically impossible. So now that I've gotten to the head, I'm gonna go ahead and just take this node out, like as soon as I can. And now I should be able to get directly onto the head sigil and just stab it all the way home. There we go. There's Hydrus. Oh. Goodbye. I never feel bad destroying this Colossus. I'm not even going to lie. The nice thing is that Colossus and then not this coming one, but the one after are two of those three hardest Colossi that I was referring to, at least for me personally. But this Colossus that we're about to come up on is probably one of the easiest to speedrun. All right, hun. Thank you. Okay, so this next Colossus that I'm headed towards, honestly, I'm really excited to get there because this Colossus is in an absolutely gorgeous area. And by the way, this marks just about the halfway point of the game because we are headed towards Colossus number 8. So this one, Kuramori, is basically in a small coliseum. And on the way there, we're going to get to see probably some of the most beautiful landscaping that's built into the game. So this area has a waterfall and just these gorgeous flowers. There's even an area where you're supposed to swim through the water and can grab onto the fish that are underneath. We're going to be skipping that part, unfortunately, just because of the way that you run through the water for the speedrun strat. But definitely take it in. I'll do the best I can to guide the camera so that you can see the best parts. This is another one that on the PS2 version, because it was so dark, the way that it's built, I would always have the hardest time getting up to it, but because I would constantly just circle this rock enclosure over and over again. But it's actually a straight shot, just directly from the temple. Another one of those things that, oh man, now that I'm a speedrunner and I know this, I just think of all the time that I used trying to figure it out the first time I played. So here's that waterfall I was talking about that you just really get to take in, which is just absolutely incredible. And then coming over here, we get to see just the flowers and the pond leading up to Kuramori's enclosure. I typically call this Colossus my salamander boy, and this is another one of those colossi where the strat that I'm going to use as a speedrunner isn't actually all that different from what the designers intended. The only big difference is since I know the timing of the animations, I'm going to be able to do it in a much more optimized way. So once I basically get to the arena, what you're going to see me do is whistle to get the Colossus, the Colossi's attention. And once he actually starts climbing up towards me, put myself in a different place so I can shoot him off the wall. And I'll go ahead and break that down as it's happening. But this is very much a if you blink, you'll miss it kind of fight. So make sure that you're paying attention, because if you look away, it might be over. All right, let's see. So I'm gonna whistle to get Kuramori's attention so that Salamander Boy climbs up the wall, but I'm gonna get as far away from that spot as I can the moment that I finish whistling. And now Kuramori should be climbing directly up, trying to get to where he thinks I am. Once he gets about halfway up the wall, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot the weak spot on one of his legs. See, oh no! All right, there you go. And once I hit two of his legs, he's gonna go tumbling off the wall. Now, because I didn't shoot him from the very top of the wall, it's not going to give me a whole lot of time, but honestly, I don't need it. And what I'm going to do, this is one of those colossi where I'm actually going to employ that strat of doing cycle stabs, of just quickly letting go and re-grabbing on this first sigil just to save some time with those stabs. Now that that sigil's out, all I have to do is 2.5 stabs here, so 1, let's do a half, and then a jump stab. And that Colossus is down. So yeah, 2 of the hardest colossi split by the easiest, and that probably took 40-50 seconds. So that was a really good Kuramori. I'm really happy with that. And we are officially halfway through the game and headed towards one of the 3 hardest colossi for me. So this next one coming up is called Bassaran. I call him Steamy Boy or Geyser Boy sometimes. And once you get to his arena, you'll understand why. The reason this one is so particularly difficult is because unlike a lot of the other colossi, where the main strategy that you're employing is just using a lot of skill to make sure that you're in the right place in the right time. You're doing stabs in a way that just optimizes how many you can get all at once. With this Colossus, what we're going to be doing is actually a complete physics abuse of the game. Or one of the strategies is a complete physics abuse of the game. So either I'm going to be jumping onto the front right leg and then yeeting myself to the left, or I'll be jumping onto the back leg and then swinging up to its back from the ribs. It's very strange. You'll see when I get there and I can explain it in more depth, but I'm going to let this cutscene play. So in that cutscene, one thing that's really incredible is that single touch that Wander does, the slight brush of the cheek for Mono, just checking on her, seeing if she's alive or if there's any sign of life, brushing a little bit of hair, has caused so much debate as to what the relationship between the two characters is. Some people say that they are maybe cousins or brother and sister, maybe lovers, or, you know, were in some kind of relationship. But one of the theories that I have is actually that Wander was a religious acolyte of some sort, so learning from the priests of the religion and temple from the village where he comes from. And the reason for that, which we'll see when we get a little further on into the game, where we see other characters come into the scene. I won't spoil that, just as far as who they are, but just look at their clothes in comparison to Wander's, because there's something about that correlation that I find really interesting. My personal theory is that I think that Mono, I don't know if she necessarily knew about him or that she loved him back, but I think it may have been some kind of unrequited love of Wander having affections for her and it maybe not being reciprocated. But again, everyone has their own theories, which is, again, one of the beauties of gen design games. Oh, and if you actually pay attention really closely, all of the places where I've beat a Colossus up to this point, you can see these huge circles in the air where there's just light directly going into the sky that actually leads to their corpse. So, not in any way a sign that what you're doing may not be good, Wander. You're literally breaking a world. But here we are. He has no remorse for his decisions whatsoever. All right. Okay. I'm gonna wait for him to basically try and shoot me. Then I'm gonna go around the fireballs and jump onto the ribs here. That's going to allow me to swing onto his leg and then get directly onto the back. The other strat is basically just doing a really crazy... Oh my gosh. No, Wander. I don't know why he decided he wanted to fall off there, but not letting that happen. Now, the way that you normally defeat this Colossus, I circumvented a ton of stuff. So what you would normally do is if you look out there and can see the water that's kind of in the distance, there are a bunch of geysers in this area, which is why I call him Geyser Boy or Steamy Boy. And what you would do is this Colossus is massive. There aren't many ways to easily get onto him. So what you would want to do is basically knock him over by getting him to stand over one of the Bassaran, come on. By getting him to stand over one of those geysers. So what I did basically is a way to jump onto him and completely circumvent the need to even use those geysers. And now I can just stab the head sigil a million times until he dies. So it should take another, like, minute, is my guess. And the only reason I say a minute is because he sure likes to move around a lot, if you could not tell. This is a very aggressive Colossus that is not having a good time with me being on his head. Nice thing about this fight, though, is once you get the health just past halfway, he stops doing quite as erratic of movements, which allows you to get more stabs in more quickly. So I'm just gonna need to get, I think, one more solid stab in here. And now I should be good to just get his side-to-side animations, and that will allow me to get a plant. Yep, perfect. Okay, so just got the plant here. Now I can just stab it all the way home. And bam, there we go. Bassaron's dead. Yay! Now, one thing that's actually really, really nice about this particular fight, if for some reason, because the jump up on the ribs and the jump up on the front leg are both extremely difficult, if you mess it up, there's actually a cliff to the right, and what you can do is jump off of that and do what we call a death reset, or a tactical death. And that essentially allows you to make sure that Wander dies in the game, and that resets you to the very beginning of the fight and puts you in the perfect position just to try again. Now, not all the Colossi give you that advantage. Some of them either are completely non-aggressive and pacifist, so if you fall, you're kind of up to your own devices. And then there are others where just they don't attack you or kill you quite as quickly, and there's nowhere to really kill yourself tactically in the area. But a few of the Colossi that it's harder to get onto do have very conveniently placed cliffs. Yes, as my community started calling it the other day, and Kaysun just put in the chat, a tactical yeet, if you will. I'm sorry, I just saw the comment in the chat saying, fellas, y'all ever commit genocide for a girl who might not even like you? Yikes. Yikes. Woo hoo 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 hoo. But also, that's not it's not an inaccurate synopsis. Now, one thing that's really great is one of the things that a lot of us will say in the community is once you get past a certain number of Colossi, after that, it's really just fun. And now we're starting to get into the fights where I don't have to worry quite as much because, like, with the third Colossus, not getting the Gaius launch is a huge time loss, or it can be a really big time loss if you don't get onto the Colossus really quickly. Avion, the fifth Colossus, that bird, if you fall off in the water, can be a huge time loss. So the beginning of a speedrun of this game in general can be very anxiety-inducing, because you don't want things to go wrong. But with these other Colossi, while little things can go wrong, a lot of them, with one exception, have insanely quick recoveries and are just fun fights in general. So this is getting into one of the fights that is just genuinely fun to play out. So this coming one is called Dirge, or affectionately called in the speedrun community Dirgy Dirge. And once we get there, I'll explain a little bit more about how that fight works. But just a little bit of story time here, just while we're headed this way. The way I actually got into speedrunning this game, which the people in my community know this story at this point. I tell it all the time, but it's a good story, so I'm going to tell it again. So I started playing this game, or I was first introduced to it. Well, technically I was first introduced to it when a friend was playing it in middle school and said, I have this game. There isn't much to do. I don't like it. And I didn't think much more of it. And then I was introduced to it in high school, and my best friend at the time and I absolutely fell in love with the game. Just the graphics and the adventure, the story. There was something about it that was really, really captivating. So we played it together, and I was the one with my controller in hand, and she and I would figure out the puzzles together. Just doing anything we could to try and figure out how to beat these Colossi, how to take them down, because again, as you've seen, they are massive and very scary. And then when I met one of my best friends in the world, Ian, who I actually still live with to this day, we bonded over the fact that we like a lot of the same video games. So Portal and Final Fantasy X and a bunch of other games were on that list. And this was at the top. It's my favorite game. It's one of his favorite games. So we made a yearly tradition out of playing it together. And then we both got so good at the game and we got so intense about it that it just became a tradition with our friend group of, we would say, is it time? It's time. And people knew that we were going to have some day where we blocked out like 6 to 8 hours and just blasted through the entirety of Shadow of the Colossus, passing the controller back and forth. And that turned into races. We would get 2 separate gaming setups, and we would get like a few drinks and pile a bunch of us into a dorm room and just play this video game against each other. We didn't keep time at that point, but eventually got there once I graduated college. And then it wasn't until pandemic started that I actually even considered speedrunning. But at the beginning of pandemic, because I'm a professional theater artist and actor, when the world shut down, I didn't have acting gigs to go to anymore. I didn't have rehearsals, which felt very weird. It was like this big thing in my life was missing. So I played a lot of this game because it's been a big source of comfort. And out of curiosity, my roommates timed me one day, and before I even knew speedrun strats, I placed 9th on the international chart. And now my time, along with a bunch of the other speedrunners on the chart, our times have all improved exponentially. And the community is so great that just I haven't wanted to leave. And I love learning how to play this game just better and better. So yeah, that's how I got into it. Okay, so with this Colossus, what I'm going to be doing as far as the speedrun strat, so like I said, this one's called Dirge. What I'm going to be doing actually isn't that different from the intended strategy. So Dirge is going to try and come after me. Dirge is a very aggressive Colossus. What I'm going to do is basically get him to follow me and shoot one of his absolutely massive eyes. So we got it on second arrow. That's perfect. And now I'm going to let him kind of spin out of control until he hits something. So he could hit a pillar, which is exactly what we want and exactly what happened, and I am so delighted. So sometimes he'll hit a pillar or wall. And then what I'm gonna need to do here, the only difference is for the speedrun strat, want to try and get a 1 cycle. So I have to do a specific amount of stabs. So that's number 2 and 1, 2. Oh, I overstabbed. That's okay. The nice thing is this one, you don't actually lose that much time if you don't get the 1 cycle. I just barely overstabbed, but let's see. Hun? Are you scared of me? That's why you ran away, right? It's totally because you're scared of me and I'm so much bigger than you, and not because you're a terrifying Colossus that wants to eat me. All right. There we go. Perfect. Round 2. He's probably going to hit a wall this time rather than a pillar. Okay, awesome. Perfect. Oh, and also, going back to my roommate for a second, when I started speedrunning, so the very first marathon I did was actually the Fleet Fatales GameStone Quick event, which was absolutely amazing and life-changing. I'm so honored that I got to be a part of it. He basically started saying, okay, all right, let's go. If you're going to train for this, I'm going to help train you. And because we're both big D&D nerds, what he would do is take 2d8s, so 8-sided die, since there are 16 Colossi in the game. I would always start with Colossus number 1, and then when I was practicing the Colossi and Boss Rush, just learning the strats, he will roll the 2d8s, and then roll another die for how many times I have to beat that Colossus before I can move on to the next one. When I first started speedrunning this game, I would use, oh god, what was it? We would use a D4. Then leading up to the GDQ event, we bumped it up to a D6. And now that I'm trying to get more and more intense about the game, we've just switched it up to a D8. And oh my god, it's very intense, but I love it. So yeah, he went from just casual best friend playing the game to racing best friend playing the game to personal trainer telling me that I should not accept being okay. I have to be best. And I really, really appreciate having that kind of support there. And my roommates have even gotten into the speedrun strats and just the esports side of it as well. So a few of my friends who don't even play this game or who've only played it once now understand when something has clearly gone right or wrong because they've seen me play it so much, which is just a really cool thing to bring us all together. I'll let the doorman talk. Yes! Habibi! Okay, I'm mad excited. This next Colossus is fantastic. So this Colossus is the first of what I call the small boys. And the reason I say that is because this and my favorite Colossus in the entire game are both very, very, very small. However, because they are very small, I think, they are also insanely aggressive. So even though some of the other Colossi, you know, yes, they're very big and they're very intimidating, they don't move quite as quickly and they're not quite as aggressive. Whereas the small boys have a ton of agility on their side. So you'll be able to see once I hit this one how quickly it moves. The one flip side of that is, so you won't be able to see it probably when I do this fight, just because, not to brag, I'm pretty good at this game. But when one of the small boys hits you, it pretty much immediately stun locks you, and it's very hard to get back up again once that happens. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna kind of be fighting to avoid once I actually get to this fight, is getting hit by the Colossus. And I call this one Celosia, my little lion boy, because he looks like a little lion, and the way you beat him is he is afraid of fire. It's so cute, and I love it. So what's gonna happen is you'll see he's in kind of an altar, and there are 4 different beacons of flame that surround this particular area that Celosia guards. And what you do is basically get his aggression, you pull his aggro towards you while you're standing on one of those, so that he hits it with his head and it knocks a stick off of it. When you take the stick, which is kind of a nod to the first game in the series, where you use a stick a lot to fight against monsters in Eco, but what you're gonna do is actually light that with fire. And the way that you would normally beat this Colossus is once Celosia sees that you're holding the torch that is lit aflame, she's gonna get really freaked out and start backing away from you. So what we do for the speedrun strat is actually an abuse of that logic in the AI. So what I'm basically gonna do is if I put down the torch and pull out my sword, Celosia's mind switches to the thought process of, oh, you're no longer a threat to me, I can attack you, and will start charging you. But when you have the torch in your hand, she moves very slowly around you and says, oh gosh, you have fire, I'm scared. So what I'm gonna do is basically pick up and drop the torch as quickly as I can, as many times as I can, on the edge of the cliff, which will get her to speed up and slow down behind me and basically get her off the cliff faster so that her armor breaks. Oh, God. She's so cool. Hey, baby. Look at this boy. Oh, also, I switch. I realized that I've been saying he, she, they, it, anything for these colossi. I'm gender fluid, and I use they, she, sometimes even he pronouns, just like little sprinkles on top for fun. I just assume, because the colossi have no canon gender, that they're as gender fluid as I am, so that's just kind of my own headcanon. Alright, let's see. Okay, so yeah, now that I have this torch in my hands, I'm gonna stand on the edge of this cliff and just pick up and drop the sword repeatedly. And oh, you can see that now she's gonna be doing exactly what I said of when I put down, when I picked up the torch, she got freaked out. When I put it down to pick up the sword, that's when she would change the animation and start coming towards me more aggressively. So combining those gets her to move towards you, but then not actually hit you, and just throws her off the side of the cliff. Now I'm just gonna need to get that plant, which on the small boys can be a little hard to hold, but I think I just got it. And since this one actually doesn't need that much damage to kill it, I only have to do 2 hits, and now Celosia is down. So there's another Colossus. And down they go. Oh, y'all, thank you so much for the hearts in the chat. I really, really appreciate that. Shallow thought, if you thought that was a doggy, just you wait for my favorite Colossus. Its nickname is literally my good guard dog boy. That one's gonna be really upsetting, and I'm sorry in advance. Oh yeah. Crap. Okay, this fight. Fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so this Colossus, you know how I said there are 3 that are like the 3 hardest for me in the game? This is number 3 that we're about to go towards. So, oh boy. So, the nice thing is, the way to get to this Colossus is very pretty. The thing that stinks is this Colossus fight is very hard because as far as variance in the RNG, this is probably the Colossus that has the most RNG variance. You can assume, you can hope, you can pray that you have figured out what animations Pelagia is going to do, and when you do things and hope that Pelagia will do what you want, that she will do them. And then Pelagia will take your controller, yeet it at your face, and say, ha, no, that's cute, puny mortal, and basically go on her merry way, and lose you 3 to 10 minutes of time. It's fine, everything's fine. You know, this is fine. It's not like that's happened to me before, or many of us in the community. The nice thing is I'm not playing hard mode of this game, because hard mode of this next Colossus is so near impossible. It's such a difficult fight. Yeah, so basically what this Colossus is, the name of it is Pelagia. I have nicknamed it the Dentist, the Toothy Boy, the Node Colossus. There are many different names that we have given it in the past. And the reason for that, which you'll see when we actually get to the fight, is Pelagia has teeth on the top of her head. And what that's going to allow us to do is actually steer her. By hitting those teeth, you can guide the direction the Colossus goes. And one of the biggest mechanics of this particular fight that's coming up is that I'm going to need to guide her to a platform so that I can essentially get her to show her sigil to me. It'll make more sense when we actually see the fight, and I'll go into more depth once we get there. The one thing that makes this fight especially difficult, which is why I had my groaning and sighing and grunting about realizing this Colossus was next, is in order to beat this Colossus without losing many minutes, you have to do a really specific amount of stabs in a very specific position for those stabs in order to one cycle this Colossus. If you have even a split second delay or are an inch off, it can destroy your entire run time, especially if you're on PB pace. I have lost many a PB run to this Colossus and the shenanigans she decides to pull. But again, look at how pretty this travel is. And look at how pretty this area is. Oh god, gorgeous. Mwah, chef's kiss. All right, here we go. Yeah, so really quick, backtrack for 2 seconds. So with the Colossi, I know I said that I pretty much use any pronouns for them because there's none established in canon. The only things that I think have established pronouns in this game are Wander, who is he, him, Mono, she, her, and then your horse, which I didn't know until I started speedrunning this game, is a girl. the horse is also she, her. So I love that good girl. I love her so much, even though sometimes she does the wrong thing or decides if something goes wrong that she is going to panic and run away. Yeah, if anyone here especially is a music buff, there's actually a vinyl album of all of the music in this game. I have it, and it is, not only is the art exquisite, but this sound quality is just out of this world. If you get the chance to look up the vinyl or even just listen to the soundtrack on its own, I cannot recommend it enough. I just saw someone say in the chat, you can pet the horse? Yes, you can pet the horse. After many years of playing this game, I actually didn't know that until I did the GDQ run, and my commentator, a friend of mine, Usurpering in the Team Eco community, said, and you can pet the horse. And I went, I'm sorry, what? And in the middle of the run, I decided to pet the horse because I had never done it before. So if anyone wants to see me pet the horse later, we can certainly do that. We can arrange that. Okay, perfect. So I was able to get onto the head really quickly, which is exactly what I want. Normally you would have to swim all the way around the Colossus and climb up the back. It takes all sorts of extra time, but instead by doing that, once she lowers her legs, I can just immediately get her moving towards this platform. So let me see. When they glow green like that, that's when you know that she's actually headed that direction and has registered your command. But again, with these, she sometimes just likes to do her own thing or not listen to you and say, screw you, I'm an independent woman. So what's going to happen here is now that she's charging up that attack, I can actually grab onto her face to automatically trigger the animation I want, which is this climbing up onto the platform, and that opens up her stomach for me. Now here's that speed run strat I was talking about. What I'm going to have to do is a whole stab, a 95% stab, and then 2 more whole stabs, and then hope and pray that I didn't understab. Oh, thank God. Okay. No matter how many times I do that fight successfully, it still makes me nervous to this day because I've flashbacks. And this is another one that people have really cool theories about. So one theory I heard is the reason why the back is so flat like that and you see the teeth on the top of the head is actually because that's the bottom of the jaw, and the whole top side of the Colossus is gone. Whether that's deteriorated from time or it was defeated in some way and now only half of it remains, we don't know. But it's lore-wise and design-wise such a beautiful fight. And I used to love this fight, but as a speedrunner, even though I love it, I have also come to hate it. So here we are, but we got it one cycle. That makes me extremely happy, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. And this is great. Oh, here's where we get some of the other lore of the village. I'm gonna shut up. I just saw that someone asked if there should be a horse pet bonus incentive, and I was never told if donations were going to be read or how they were going to be read, so if that's a thing that we're doing, I would be more than happy to do that. I just need to know how, but I would be totally down for adding a horse incentive. I just need to know when to pet. Oh, and we've only got 4 Colossi to go. This is number 13. Okay. And this is the other one that's in that desert area, so we get to see a lot of really cool landscape on the way. Pet aggro right before Malice, please. You got it. Lucky 13. I 100% agree, Grey Connect. 13 is actually my lucky number. I was born on a Friday the 13th at 6:13 p.m. Really freaked nurses out. Is the HD and the original version speedrun different? So, let me see. So, Kaze, to answer your question, oh, that's actually really funny. Fun fact, there's a speedrun that shares your name. Or there's a speedrun strategy that shares your name in this game. So, that'll be fun when I get to it. So, there are a few slight variances with the PS2, PS3, and PS4 versions, but they're not that significant. You can still pretty much do any of the strats from the from this version, the PS4 version, in the other two. The only difference is the general timing of the inputs. And then there's one that I know doesn't exist in the, or there are 2 that I know don't exist in the others, and that's just for Quadratus and Barba. You can't do that same cutscene skip that puts you directly onto the back of the Colossus or onto the beard of the Colossus. But other than that, all of the other strats, from what I understand, exist in the other versions of the game. So it's just a matter of how the timing works that changes. Also, with this one, so with the PS4 version, something that's actually really cool is there are some strats that you can pull off if you have a PS4 Pro and are playing in 60 frames per second versus if you're playing on a normal PS4 in 30 frames per second. So there are some tricks that are easier to pull off in 30 FPS and then some that you can only pull off in 60. Since I play with a regular PS4, I can't really attempt those 60 FPS only strats, but I can do the 30 FPS, which is really great. And they actually made other versions of the controller mapping in this version. I use classic controls because that's what I grew up on, but there are also modern controls that add 1 or 2 additional mechanics. And this is the one completely pacifist Colossus, and I always feel so guilty when I have to kill her. So, Phalanx, or the sand dragon, flying sand snake, as you can see, we're going to get just a beautiful shot in this cutscene of these 3 air sacs that are on the stomach. And what I'm going to need to do for the speedrun strat is just shoot those out as quickly as I possibly can, which is why I made sure I had the bow from the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead. There's number 1, number 2, and number 3. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So we took all 3 of those out just in one go, and now you're gonna see she's gonna start to lower her wings, which once I catch up to her is going to allow me to get onto this Colossus. Let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and just meet her over around this corner. Let's see. Hi, hun. Oh, perfect. Seamless jump. Awesome. And then the only big variance, because you would have to do all of that anyway in the regular strat, the only really big difference is for all of these sigils, rather than doing 2 stabs to each of the 3 sigils, I'm going to do 1.9. And what that's going to do is allow me to avoid getting a barrel roll animation. And it basically cuts down on the timer a little bit, so it gives me more time so I can get a 1 cycle on the Colossus. if you were to get the barrel rolls, these panels over each of the sigils would actually close and not allow me to do it just in one go. But because I'm doing them relatively quickly, we should be fine here. Let me see. Okay. Also, we just take leaps of faith to get to the back of the Colossus as quickly as possible. Okay, here we go. Hi, hun. And there's one stab. And with a jump stab, we should be good. Yep, and there's a one cycle Phalanx. This Colossus reminds me of that Zelda boss. I think you're thinking of the fire dragon Volvagia. Is that what you're referring to? So Shadow of the Colossus is my favorite video game of all time, and I do love the Team Eco games, but Legend of Zelda series is actually my favorite game series of all time, so the comparisons there are very apt. I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, the Ocarina of Time boss, Volvagia, twin mold from Majora's Mask. Ooh, that's a good comparison too. Okay, oh man, it's been forever since I played Majora's Mask. Mulgara from Wind Waker looks pretty similar. Yeah, that one I can see. Actually, I'm just now, I'm replaying Wind Waker for the first time in a while, and I've been having an absolute blast. Oh, the next one's my favorite Colossus. Okay, I'll let you watch this cutscene, and then I'll go into my rant. I also love how many cross Legend of Zelda Shadow of the Colossus fans there are here. Just, oh, mwah, brightens my day. Thank you, my kind. Yes, Jello, it's good boy. It's good boy next. A guardian set loose, a closed-off city beyond the channel. It lusts for destruction because he's a guard dog and he's doing a good protect of his city. I cannot express how much I love this Colossus. I love it so much. And this one actually has probably, outside of the final Colossus, the longest travel time. So I'm not going to get into the exact strats of the Colossus yet, just because it's going to take us a bit to get there. But something I am going to talk you through is something that's also really creepy about this game that kind of reinforces the narrative of the game wanting to reinforce that what you're doing isn't good. You definitely aren't the hero of this story. Is not only are there these beams of light that shine in the sky that marks wherever you defeated a Colossus, wherever it was felled, but if you go back to that area, you can see the corpse of the Colossus that you defeated there, just completely covered in sand. Some of them are falling apart. Some of them already have grass and wildlife growing upon them. So we're gonna get to pass one of those corpses of something that I destroyed in this run in just a second. So that'll be fine. This is fine. Everything is fine. Oh yeah, Katie just brought up something really great that I wasn't even thinking of, so thank you for saying that. So in this version, the PS4 version, it's not quite as prominent, but in the PS2 and PS3 versions, it's pretty obvious to tell. So as Wanderer defeats Colossi, if you take a really close look at his skin, not only is his skin getting paler, but his blood is starting to turn from red to black. So if you look at the veins in his skin, if you get to a place where you can turn the camera towards him, the veins are completely popped out. At a certain point, his eyes look completely sunken in. You can see the quite literal physical toll that what you are doing is taking on you before you even know what's happening. And here's the corpse of Bassaron. Hi. I don't feel guilty about that at all. Not whatsoever. It's fine. All right, here we go. All right, so getting up to Zenobia. Ugh, I'm so excited. So, as I mentioned, I call this Colossus my good guard dog boy, and it is in a small city that it essentially has been set loose and probably at one point defended. The way that you would defeat this Colossus, I'm going to talk you through it because you aren't going to get to see that much of it, kind of like with the fourth Colossus, Phaedra, of me explaining, here's generally what you use, but you're probably not going to see me do any of that. So there are these huge towers all across the landscape in this city. And what essentially would happen if you were doing the intended strategies is you would want to climb all of those different towers and get him to knock them over. That way it essentially makes a land bridge or a path for you so you can eventually get Zenobia lured over to a platform where it's going to knock the armor off his back. What I'm going to do is essentially a strategy that's going to surpass all of that, which is very fun. All right, let's see. So the two strategies I'm going to try and use here, I'll try and use one, and then if it doesn't work, I'll switch to the other. So the main one that I want to try and use is called the super jump. And what's going to happen is when I get to the final pillar in this area, I am going to need to spam the jump button as quickly as I can when I get to this pillar. And if I do it in the exact position just right, it will actually launch me in a huge jump directly upwards. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to be using a strat called the Kaze jump. And this one I'm going to explain a little bit of because the mechanic is actually really important for the next Colossus as well. So there's something that we call magnet hands in this game, where if Wander is close enough to a ledge that he can grab onto, but he's not quite there, as long as you're close enough, the game will kind of glitch you closer to it so that you can grab on. You have to be pretty close for this to register, but if you ever see me close to something and then suddenly Wander just magnetizes and claps onto it, that's what's happening there, is it's Wander's magnetism. So for this Colossus and the next one, I will probably need to utilize that particular mechanic. Oh god, this city is so pretty. And there he is. There's my boy. He is best boy. Look at him. Fun fact, his code name with the developers was Cerberus, which is why I stand by when some people say he's a bull. Nah. He's a good boy. He's a good dog. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I just jumped over and basically skipped a bunch of those towers, but I think you can see one just to the left here. And what I'm gonna do is go to this final pillar, like I said, and try and jump as quickly as I can and see if I can get myself launched directly upwards. Ah! Yes! Oh man, I usually don't get it that quickly. Yes, amazing. Okay, I don't even have to use the Kaze jump. Heck yeah. All right. Hey, hun. Let's do this. I'm ready. Are you? So she does the first hit on her own. The second you kind of have to provoke her into. And I'm going to go ahead and loose just one more arrow here. That way, once this cutscene finishes, then I can basically make sure her attention is already on me rather than her just wandering all across the arena. And now that I'm up here, all I need to do is jump over to... Ah, no! Okay, well, I missed it. Crap. But that's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. Oh my gosh. And I went to jump over to the platform again and missed Wow, this is going great. This is another one of those moments where I have to say, I swear I'm good at this game. Okay, so once I hit Zenobia, she's gonna essentially see this center part of the pillar, or the platform, as one of those pillars, and this falling on her is now gonna knock that armor off of her back. So I should be able to get on the Sigil, and then just immediately take it out from there. Alright, let's see. Hey, hon. And I've got the plant here, so I don't even have to worry about being shaken. I can just stab all the way home. Perfect! Oh. It's always really sad killing this Colossus, but boy do I love that fight. It's so fun. It's so exciting. Oh, goodbye, good boy. And we are on the final 2 Colossi. I'm gonna read this comment out because I love it. It's, he protect, he attack, then he gets stabbed in the back. That's adorable, and I love every single thing about that. That is very Zenobia energy. I almost skipped the cutscene. I'm putting the controller in front of me and leaving my hands in my lap so I do not touch it until the cutscene is over. So this is one of the final 2 Colossi, so of course they had to make it as terrifying as possible. The design of this Colossus was meant to be intimidating, and boy, the designers did not disappoint. So this next one I'm headed towards, Argus. I refer to him as the champion. This Colossus, as the Doorman outlined, is the defender of a completely destroyed city. It doesn't have much of what it used to be. And this one, I'm gonna try and explain. I know some of them, I've given a few basic details before the fight, and then I explain it throughout. This one is so detailed and nonsense, but it goes so fast in real time that I'm actually gonna need to break it down beforehand before I actually get to the fight, because otherwise it will make no sense. So, what's gonna happen is with this fight, what you normally have to do is use Argus and the arena to your advantage. So, there are platforms, but you can't quite get up to the next level. So you have to get Argus to stomp on it in order to make a ramp. There are some places that you have to get Argus to hit in order to break it or create a new path forward, break a bridge so that you have basically a diving board directly onto his head. And then the final bit of the intended strat is he has a weak spot right above one of his elbows, and in that arm he is holding a hammer. What you need to do in the intended strat is get him to drop that hammer, because unlike a lot of the other Colossi that have simple sigils, like maybe one on the head, a few on the wings, maybe one on the butt, no. This one has a sigil on the head and a sigil in the palm of the hand. So you have to get in to that sigil that's in the middle of the hand. Now, if he's still holding the hammer, it's near impossible to grab onto that hand. However, by using what I described before that I ended up not needing to use on Zenobia, which is great, which is that magnetism that Wander has, you can essentially get Wander to clap into something and grab onto it. So what I'm going to need to do here is get onto the Colossus, and then the first sigil I'm actually going to go for is the one on the hand. So before even knocking the sword out of it, before doing anything else, I'm just going to try and fly by the hand and then hit the grab button at a very specific moment so that he magnetizes and grabs onto the single little patch of fur that is available so that I can stab it and then move on. The second part of the speedrun strat is basically a physics abuse. And what's going to happen is when I grab onto the knee, if I hold the jump button and the grab button and then release them at exactly the right moment of Argus's walking animation, so just when he's about to step forward, but not quite, you can actually let them go to get Wander to do this very strange launch upwards. It is bizarre. It took me forever to kind of figure out how it works. But once it goes off, it is such a cool strategy. So I'm really excited to show it to you. And like I said, part of the reason I wanted to explain it now is just because in real time, that takes 50 seconds or less. My fastest time on this Colossus is, I think, 38 seconds. So this is another one where if you blink, you will miss it. So, unless something goes wrong, in which case I might have to do a few resets and we'll all just hang out and, you know, sing campfire songs or something. I don't know. But as K-Sun put very aptly in the chat, this Colossus is kind of the culmination of what we have learned thus far. So you kind of combine a bunch of different speedrun strats, a bunch of different physics abuses in order to get the full strat to this fight. So wish me luck. There's this boy. Very scary boy. So what I'm gonna do is get him to stomp that foot. That is going to let me grab onto this knee, get up here, and now I'm gonna try and jump past that hand to magnetize into it. I missed, but the nice thing is, remember how I mentioned tactical deaths earlier and that there were some clips that were fairly conveniently placed in case you need to reset? This is one of them! I totally died on purpose just to give you a demonstration of a tactical death, since I didn't get to show you that earlier. And since we got to see this cutscene already, I am going to skip it really quickly. Alright, here we go. Alright, take two. Here we go. Okay, cool. So I'm in the fur, and we got the right animation, so as soon as the hand stabilizes, I should be able to get the stab here. Yep, there it goes. Perfect. Okay, so now I just want to get back in front of that right leg. That way he does the same stomp, and I can get back onto the knee where I need to be. Okay, so I want to be about a scooch in, just where this little notch is on the knee, and I'm holding the jump and R1. And just like that, launch directly up to the head using that physics abuse. And now I can land in a plant and just get as many stabs on the head as possible. And this is the only other sigil on this Colossus. There is an additional one in hard mode, but thankfully, since we're on normal, we don't have to worry about it here. And just like that, Argus is done. Bless. And we are officially headed towards the final Colossus. Good luck for the rest. Oh, thank you so much, Undead. I really appreciate that. Okay, yep, we're headed towards the final Colossus, y'all. Final fight. So before I head towards this one, I promised before Malice I would pet the horse. So I will pet Agro. It's gonna lose us a few seconds, but I don't care. It's the end of the game. Let me give some love to my horse. Hun! Hello? Alright, so... Here you go. Hi. Give you a few good pets. And... to adventure! Amazing. Okay, cool. So, now that we've given Agro pets, we are headed towards the final Colossus at the very, very southern tip of the map. Malice. Spelled M-A-L-U-S. But we all know what it actually sounds like. So this Colossus I refer to as my tallest boy, because if anyone watched Invader Zim growing up, that was one of my shows that I really enjoyed. So I may be dating myself here at this point, but there was a joke that the alien planet that this main character came from was ruled by the two tallest aliens among them because the rest of their alien race was very short. So they were referred to as the tallest. And this Colossus, when you see him, oh, he towers above the entire landscape, and is really, really scary. I will explain kind of how this strat works when we get closer, but we are going to have a few more cutscenes that are coming up. Also, really quick, I'm just going to say this now, so if you need to step away for a few minutes, you can and come back. There is a cutscene coming up that, if you've never seen this game before, is going to make it seem like a animal in this game dies. But I promise you, in the final credits, you will get to see that that animal is not indeed dead. So, just for anyone who may have problems with animal death, this is not a thing. But also, if you have a problem with animal death, probably the rest of this run wasn't good for you anyway, so sorry, question mark. Oh, one headcanon I have. There's no way that this can actually be officially canon, but I really love the game Journey as well, and the fact that both of them, for the very ends of the game, have these two mountains that kind of come in closer together. There's something about that that I think is very thematically similar, and a part of my headcanon has always wondered if the world that Journey takes place in is the Forbidden Lands, just hundreds and hundreds or thousands of years after the events of Shadow of the Colossus, maybe far past the events of The Last Guardian. So it's just a theory, it's just a thought, but something I think about. And if you haven't had the chance to play Journey, also highly recommend that game. It is much like this one, very implicit story building heavy, and just really a gorgeous game. All right. Hey, hun. Ah, wait. What are you doing? Okay. Now that she's done panicking about going through a gate. Again, it's a gate. You just walk through it. I don't understand what the panic was there, hun. Anyway. Alright. We're just going upstairs. This isn't hard, right? Okay, and now we're just going on a bridge. This isn't hard, right? Right? Alright, here we go. Thank you, hun. Again, I promise she's not actually dead, but this is very sad. The one thing that still perplexes me to this day, though, is if I had fallen that far, I would have died. How does Agro not take that fall damage? Just curious, game. Why doesn't Wonder have as good a fall damage as the horse? Anyway, that's fine. Okay, so now that we are getting closer to this Colossus, let me break it down. So, what you're going to see is this Colossus is not only huge and tall and terrifying, but also the area is going to be super dark because rain is pouring on your face, and he has heat-seeking missiles. I am not exaggerating there. He can shoot heat-seeking missiles directly from his hand that hit you and stun lock you, and if you get hit by one, you will most likely get hit by more and die. It is very scary, and the way that you avoid this in the intended strats is there are a bunch of bunkers and barriers kind of scattered throughout the landscape, and what you do is use those so that you can crawl under and dodge past those bullets before you can get underneath and then climb the Colossus and the architecture. There's only one weak spot, Sigil, but there are several different weak points that you use to climb the Colossus, and you have to hit so many of them. You have to go from one hand to the shoulder, to the other hand, to the other shoulder, and it's all sorts of confusing and nonsense. So I'm gonna basically do a bunch of strats to avoid all of that, because there is a very specific path that if I hit it just right, I will take either like between 0 hits and maybe 2 or 3 hits, just depending on how well I can make this run up. Yeah, I know you're aware of how powerful you are. Please don't use that power on me because it's very scary. Shiner, I just saw the very sweet comment that you're really enjoying the run before bed. I'm so glad. And to all of you who've been here for this run or just for the rest of the marathon in general, thank you so much for supporting me and this run and really, really longathon and lots of loreathon and all of the other amazing speedrunners who are here. I'm so excited and honored to be here and to be showing you this game and getting to watch almost all the cutscenes again. Again, I'm so sorry that I skipped 2 or 3, but getting to watch almost all the cutscenes again while playing this game in the way that I really enjoy playing it now has just been so, so cool. Oh no! Please don't die. Please don't die. Please don't die. Please don't die. Oh my god. Nope, that's death. All right, take 2. That's fine. Oh my god! All right, here we go. I say thank you. I'm so honored to be here. It's so great. Crap! Death! So, yeah, if you were wondering what me speedrunning this game is like, I think that moment in general pretty much encapsulated it. The only thing you need to add is a little more Broadway singing, and then, like, we're there. Yeah, press F to pay respects, y'all. Holy crap, that was such a brutal death. Again, someone someone said something very nice in the chat, and I really appreciated it and wanted to acknowledge it, and Malice said, "No happiness in this fight!" That's basically what happened. Alright, here we go. Come on. Come on. Ha! Okay, okay, I'm very close. I'm very close. I think I got it. I think I got it. I think I got it. Do I, can I, no. Okay, can I, but can I though? But Malice, can I, Malice? Oh, thank God. Okay, cool. Now that we are on track. So the cool thing about this is once you get on the right path, because I would normally be running towards those barriers, Malice's track is going to be a little too low to hit me. So as long as I'm walking up towards those barriers or just past them, I'm good to go. So I have gone and basically surpassed all of the other bunkers and barriers that I would have had to go up, which would take like 10 minutes of run up time. And instead I made it a minute. Your commentary and gameplay is superb. Thanks for running this for us. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I honestly, without having theater, getting to speedrun my favorite game in the world and now speedrun it for such cool people at such cool events, it's really changed my life and means the world to me. So anytime I can show this game to people or show other games to people, like in marathons, on my chat, whatever, I absolutely love it. So hey, if you want to hang out more and see me run this game, feel free to check me out at the other marathons I do or just on my channel. I would love to have you there along with the rest of our kind of family over at the Crystal Crew. And by the way, if you're not following this channel yet for lots of lore, what are you doing? You should follow. Because you'll be able to see many awesome runners like myself and many, many more. Okay, so what's happening here is you can see the weak spot on the arm, but I basically just surpassed all of that, and I'm going to jump directly to his chest. I got that jump flawlessly, so now we just went and skipped a million steps to get directly onto the head of this final Colossus, and now that I am in the plant, as long as I make sure to maintain it, some of the positions that Malice throws his head in, if you don't time your stabs exactly right, you'll actually get thrown out of the plant. So I'm gonna try and just do what I can to make sure to time these stabs perfectly. And here we go. Okay. And there's the final hit of Malice. So that is Colossus number 16. The only thing we have left is the last bit of big cutscene. And, oh gosh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so there is going to be a final little cutscene that I have to play through, and for whoever's running the timer, I will let you know as soon as we need to stop it. And I'm sorry that we're a little overestimate. I thought I had calculated right with the cutscenes, but I guess I left a little bit of extra time, so hopefully that's not too big a deal. I'm sorry, I was out of the room for a second. Are you promising speedruns and show tunes? Yeah, because I grew up on musical theater, I'm a little obsessed, and people can actually redeem me serenading or make song requests on my channel, and sometimes I like to sing. I may not be the best singer in the world, but I thoroughly enjoy it, and I'll sing random songs that come to mind on my channel, many of those being Broadway or indie songs, so. This is my second time I've watched you run SOTC, and I enjoy it every time. Oh my god, Axis! Thank you so much! That means the world to me. Okay, I'm glad Longathon said not at all. Okay, good. Oh, and now you get to see the awesome final cutscene. Oh, this is great. It's always so weird because if you skip this cutscene, you go from being Wander to being a huge shadow beast. You'll see how we get there in a sec. But for anyone who hasn't played the game before but sees a speedrun, it makes absolutely no sense how he got point A to point B. But watch, marvel at the end cutscene. Oh, and yeah, pay attention to the hand. Look at how, look at the veins popping out, and look at how pale Wanderer is now when he lifts his hand up here. It's really, really cool how they faded his skin just slowly more and more throughout the game with every Colossus you defeat. Like, you can see on the edges, it's starting to turn blue and gray, and you can see the veins just like popping out on the back of the hand and turning black. The nails are even black. Oh god, just so good. Okay, so now that we are here and I am controlling the doorman, oh god, I love that scene. So basically what we're gonna do for the speedrun bit is, I have the power to fight these guys if I really wanted to. I can breathe fire, like I'm about to show right now. I can stomp if I want to. I can jump and land on them. The problem with that, though, is the more that you become the aggressor against them, the more they're going to fight against you. But I actually, for the sake of the speedrun, want them to leave as quickly as possible. So basically, as a heads up to whoever's running the timer, the time is going to end right when I hit or Wander's body hits that pool in the back. You'll know when it's coming. And I'll call time as well and let you know that it's coming up directly. But for now, I'm just going to chill here and let them escape. But we're just in final cutscene territory here. And if you pay attention, the music that's playing right now is the music that plays after you kill a Colossus and those tendrils go back into you. So this is you, having just been a Colossus, dying. Normally I would want to run towards her, but because, you know, I'm doing a speed run, I'm running towards the pool, and the timer will end for the run itself when I hit the pool now. And now it's just the final credit cutscene, which lasts about 10 minutes, and then I'll get my in-game time so I know how good the run actually was. The really nice thing here, I only had one reset on the 15th Colossus, and then I had one big mistake falling off of Gaius, so number 3. Other than that, there weren't really, well, and then I didn't get Hydrus right away, but everything else went really, really smoothly. So this probably isn't going to be a PB, but I'm still insanely happy with how this run went. And again, thank you all so much for having me here. Oh gosh, this was so great. And now that we've finished the game, so one of the theories I have about this game, I actually wrote a whole essay on it, is that I think Wander was an acolyte, because if you look at Lord Iman's tabards, even though they're different colors, they have the exact same symbol on them, which actually reflects the symbol that shows up on each of the colossi. So I think that Wander was told that he, like, as one of his first sacrifices, was going to have to sacrifice this girl who he had this basically distanced affection for. And after he sacrificed her, felt so guilty that he had to undo what he had done. So in favor of, but love, because when you're young and in love, it's hard to think of anything else, he took this dead girl who he barely knew, but felt this huge guilt towards, forsook his religion, and came to this place to a god that had been forsaken by the very people that he betrayed. I have a bunch of other stuff that goes into that theory, but we'll get to that in a bit. For now, Mona's awake. It worked. He never reaches her in the end. Not necessarily. Keep watching. Like, stick around for a sec, trust me. It turns out differently than you think. And by the way, someone had said that there is a theory about Wander being the front of the lineage of the Horn Boys, and that's 100% accurate. This was built as a prequel to Eco, specifically for that purpose. So I definitely think that's correct. I'm very curious what the in-game time is, since I wasn't since we had the cutscenes, it's kind of skewed from what I'm used to. Hagro! She's back! We did it! Also, the fact that the horse doesn't seem to know Mono. If they lived in the same village and Wander and Mono were close, most likely she would be around that horse a lot. So by the fact that she's just quote-unquote now getting to know the horse, tells me that Wander definitely knew who she was with the affection that he showed and the way he touched her and looked at her. But I don't know if she necessarily knew Wander very well, or maybe even at all. And in case you didn't feel guilty yet, the credits just show you the corpses of every single thing that you murdered. Just to really drive it home. Oh, and by the way, I said what my theory is, but part of the reason why I said I would love to hear people's theories in the chat, and I'm loving the people were dropping them, is because I think Aiden touched on this in chat, which I so agree with, is part of the beauty of gen design games is like I said at the very beginning of the run, and I think even a few times throughout, these games are meant for you to come up with your own theories, for people to write in and fill in the blanks themselves. That's part of the beauty of them, is they don't just feel like beautifully designed games mechanically and graphically and musically. They also are games that feel like collaborative storytelling. There are blanks where you can add things in. And something about that is really, really beautiful to me. And that's part of why I love these games so much. A lot of my favorite games are just... a lot of my favorite games are ones where it allows you and invites you as the player in to help fill in the blanks of what the story and the world can be, alongside what it already is. Oh, thank you all so much. The fact that you're thanking me, I'm so glad that I could be here and share this game with you. The fact that you all had a good time, that's the goal here. And also to raise money for amazing causes, to come together as a gaming community. So being able to make that kind of space really means the world to me, and I know that it means the world to a lot of other speedrunners too. So I would say if you're at all interested, if you want to know how to speedrun this game or any other games in the Team Eco series, so Eco or The Last Guardian, the Team Eco Discord is really incredible and inclusive. They're part of the reason why I got as deep into speedrunning as I did, and have taught me so much about how to play the game, how to be a better speedrunner. They calmed me down before my first speedrun that I ever did for a marathon. So feel free to join that community. We would love to have you. And then if you're interested in following me and what I do more, like I said, I am a Let's Player and a speedrunner and a performer. So I do a lot of stuff on my channel and on other places on the internet and otherwise. So if you are interested, feel free to follow my channel. I would really appreciate the support and love to have